It was a beautiful summer day as 5 friends set out on their long-awaited sailing adventure. Their yacht glided gracefully over the shimmering azure waters of the Pacific Ocean. Captained by Robert, an experienced sailor, the crew included Laura, an adventurous marine biologist who always carried her waterproof journal, an essential tool for documenting her research. Little did she know it would serve as a tragic record of their voyage. Jake, a seasoned diver, and 2 other friends, Emma and Mike, were eager to explore the water. An intense storm erupted, catching the group off guard. The waves grew monstrous, crashing against the yacht with relentless force. They fought to steer the vessel, but the elements were unyielding. As the storm raged on, a mighty wave struck the yacht with brutal force, damaging its hull. Robert battled the turbulent waves, trying to keep the boat afloat. Despite his best efforts, the storm fury proved overwhelming, leaving the vessel damaged and adrift. They were thrown into the waters in moments, with the yacht sinking into the abyss. During this storm, Jake has thrown dinghies into the water, hoping to hold on to one if tossed into the water. But none of them could grab one except Laura, who desperately fought to stay afloat amidst the raging storm by grabbing the dinghy with all ounces of strength left in her. After a grueling night battling the cyclone, the storm finally subsided. The morning sun revealed Laura's predicament. With the yacht and the rest of the crew nowhere to be seen, it dawned on her that she was isolated on the water. But being a survivor, she knew she had to summon the courage to stay alive. She became stranded and miles away from the nearest land. The once idyllic adventure has transformed into a tragic outing with a challenge for survival. All their supplies and devices have drowned with the yacht, so there is no way Laura could signal for help or food or water for her. She had just 2 candies in her breast pocket before the adventure. She climbed on the dinghy and waited anxiously for any vessel passing through the route. However, days turned into weeks with no vessel coming. Laura's anxiety had grown as morale dwindled. She became fearful of staying on the water for such a long time. The island they intended to explore was now a mere silhouette on the horizon. On the dinghy, the relentless sun and unforgiving salt water took a toll on her body. With each passing day, her hope wavered, but she refused to succumb to despair. Laura braced against the chilling sea breeze and the haunting silence that enveloped her during the night. The sea gave no respite as it sent cold chills down her spine. Laura found herself wrestling with fear and despair. The thought of her friends, family, and the life she had known seemed to grow dimmer with each passing hour. As the days dragged on, Laura's plight attracted a host of predators, including sharks. Circling beneath the surface, 4 ominous silhouettes emerged, sharks drawn by the scent of humans and vulnerability. Panic gripped her as she watched the predators drawing nearer, their cold, lifeless eyes reflecting an unyielding hunger. Laura's heart pounded in her chest as adrenaline surged through her veins. She knew that her survival now hinged on her wit, instinct, and understanding of the creatures. Rather than attacking, the sharks seemed to assess her, waiting for a sign of weakness. Laura's heart pounded as she realized she must appear strong and aware. She found some wooden debris sailing near her dinghy and quickly took it, using the sharp edge as a deterrent rather than a weapon. By maintaining her composure and keeping the sharp object visible, she managed to discourage the sharks from coming closer. She held her position for hours, her body on high alert, knowing that any lapse in her vigilance could be fatal. Eventually, the sharks lost interest and swam away, leaving Laura to reflect on her close encounter with one of the ocean's most feared predators. In the middle of August, rain began, and a tropical cyclone ensued, which toppled Laura into the ocean. Laura had lost much of her strength, and with this intense storm, she could do nothing but leave herself to fate. During the cyclone, Laura got hit by debris, which slashed her thigh with blood dripping out. The sharks circled, relentless and waiting. Her last entry in her water-protected journal expressed her fading hope and the lurking dread of the predators. The pages ended there, the ink smudged, and the words trailed in uncertainty. Weeks later, a rescue team came across the abandoned dinghy. Clear signs of a struggle were evident, with shark teeth marks, blood, and debris scattered around. They found Laura's waterlogged journal inside a sealed container, her account of the days following the shipwreck. Her last entry described her desperation, the relentless sharks, and waning hope. The story ends with the rescue team's sad reflection on the scene, piecing together what likely happened, but leaving some things to the imagination. They understood the cruel reality of the sea and the tragic fate that likely befell Laura. But the ocean kept its secrets, a haunting reminder of the fine line between adventure and tragedy. The family of the 5 adventurers reported them missing to the authorities, some weeks after they expected them to return home. Several search parties were conducted on the ocean, with several boats, submersibles, and helicopters accessing the area, but none yielded. After several months, authorities forgot about them and moved on to other issues. After Gold Coast, present-day Ghana became a British protectorate in the 19th century. Several British officials were sent over. In 1931, the Queen of England sent Sir Edward Charles as the governor of Gold Coast to rule on her behalf. Sir Edward boarded the ship from Liverpool to the distant shore of Ghana, driven by ambition for wealth in the unexplored British territory. Edwards had been to several colonies before he was transferred to Gold Coast. He was a man of arrogance and recklessness, accustomed to imposing his will on the locals he encountered. His presence on Gold Coast wasn't different, as he sought to exploit the colony's natural resources under the umbrella of being an official. His arrival was met with a mix of fear and fascination from the locals. Edwards ordered his men to begin the exploitation of the rich resources of the colony, including its abundant supply of gold. As days turned into weeks, the tension between these colonizers and the indigenous Ghanaians heightened. Edwards showed no empathy toward the locals, and often used coercive power to suppress any sign of resistance. He ordered the locals to extract gold from riverbanks and other vulnerable spots. Despite the locals' warning of the perils of the oceans, Edwards is determined to explore every nook and cranny of this colony. He also commanded them to capture fish in the ocean. One fateful afternoon, Edwards set to the ocean with a handful of his fellow European subordinates to overlook the workers. On getting to the bay, he checked various basins full of fish before sitting on a small vessel. Driven by the allure of untapped wealth, Edwards ventured farther away from the coastline in a direction different from where the fishermen were. He wanted a serene environment devoid of gossip and constant splashing of water. Aside from getting a cool breeze, he was searching for a new site for gold extraction, since the previous site was out of gold. Edwards' vessel stopped above a hidden reef as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow across the water. Intrigued by the discussion of sunken ships with treasure among his men, Edwards insisted on diving into the water to check and claim any treasure he found himself. Descending into the water depth, Edwards felt the temperature drop sharply, and darkness enveloped him. The ocean, which seems calm above, hides its secret with a chilling aura below. As Edwards entered the new environment, his eyes widened in awe as he beheld the vibrant underwater world. Schools of colorful fish swam past him while he admired their mesmerizing movement. Edwards hadn't seen the wealth he sought, but he was enjoying the view of the priceless beauty of nature in its purest form. However, his sense of wonder gave way to his greedy thoughts as he ventured deeper into the waters. Unknown to him, his presence had attracted a formidable presence in the ocean's depths, a great white shark. The apex predator had sensed the intruder's vulnerability and watched from a distance, calculating its approach. Edwards just trudged along, ignorant of the lurking danger underneath the waves. The shark slowly closed the gap between them as Edwards continued his exploration. A sudden change in the water's temperature, a stark contrast to the warm embrace he had felt moments earlier, sent a shiver down Edwards' spine. He turned, and to his horror, an enormous silhouette of a great white shark glided toward him. Fear courses through his veins, and he struggles to return to the vessel where his men anxiously await. However, the shark was relentless. With each powerful stroke of its tail, it became closer to the desperate man. Edward's heart pounded and his lung burned as he struggled to avert the realization crashing upon him like a tidal wave. Fortunately, he breached the surface, gasping for air. He managed to cry out to his crew for help, and they tried sailing towards him. Panic had spread among the rest as they saw terror etched on their leader's face. While sailing toward him, one of them threw a rope at him so they would pull him to safety. Little did Edwards know that the shark wasn't just chasing him. The predator lunged at Edwards with its serrated teeth sinking into his leg. The pain was excruciating and immeasurable, as Edwards's anguished screams echoed across the ocean. Thankfully, Edwards had fastened the rope onto himself before the shark clamped onto him, so his men pulled with all their might to free him from the shark's jaw. But the immense force of the predator made it impossible. The spot has turned red with Edwards' blood gushing out of the beast's teeth. Having lost all his energy to swimming from the shark, Edwards couldn't do anything but groan and cry for mercy. But the shark's grip didn't loosen. Its primal instinct was to consume its prey. During this agonizing moment, Edwards' life flashed before his eyes. He was filled with regret and remorse as he realized the devastation and tyranny he had brought upon the colony and its people. All the wealth he sought now seemed insignificant in the face of an adversary who neither bowed nor negotiated. The shark shook him violently, trying to free its prey from the rope. Edwards was shaken to the extent that he was rendered lifeless. The predator succeeds in freeing him and disappears into the abyss with him. The rest of the crew on the vessel just watched in bewilderment as the shark disappeared with their leader. They sailed quickly to the shore and ran to their quarters fearfully. Later in the day, a committee was set up to look out for Edwards's remains, with the committee mainly composed of fishermen. 4 fishermen found parts of Edwards's body floating on the river 3 days later. He was assembled and buried at the shore. Message was sent to the Queen about the incident, and the deputy governor was conferred the post. Since that day, Sir Edwards's story has become a great caution among the British colonizers. Philip and Julia had been dating since college, and their love story blossomed like a field of wildflowers. After graduating and securing a job in Warsaw, they decided to seal their love with a wedding ceremony at a 5-star hotel in Poland. Surrounded by their cherished family and friends, they exchanged vows and promised each other a lifetime of love and unforgettable adventures. As the applause and cheers filled the air on their wedding day, Philip and Julia looked forward to the grandest moment of their lifetime, their honeymoon in Africa, giving them the first opportunity to travel out of their country. They had chosen Mozambique because of its pristine beaches, vibrant marine life, and the allure of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. After arriving in the East African country, they lodged in a hotel room overlooking the beach. They set out to the beach. On arriving at the picturesque coastline, Julia and Philip were amazed by the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean. They sat on the beach chair overlooking the ocean with a constant breeze and waves caressing their faces till dusk before returning to the hotel. They set out early in the morning of the next day for a snorkeling expedition guided by an experienced local diver named Teta. Thankfully, Teta could speak a little Polish, making communicating with the couple easier. Philip was a very strong and adventurous man who was always fascinated by the mysteries of the seas. At the same time, Julia was also interested in sharing the exhilarating experience with her husband. Philip and Julia stood hand in hand on the pristine shore of Mozambique, with the turquoise waves dancing at their feet, inviting them to immerse themselves in the beauty of the vast ocean. With the help of Tete, they wore their gears and ventured into the cool, embracing water. He also warned them sternly about the threats in the water, and they replied that they won't swim far into the water. As they ventured into the ocean, their hearts swelled with joy. The coral reefs painted a mesmerizing world beneath the surface. They held each other's hands while descending into the water's depths, marveling at the schools of colorful fish darting around them. Before entering the ocean, Tete had warned them not to stray far, but the zeal to explore led them astray. They feel the depth is safe and inviting, making them venture further. A sense of tranquility enveloped them as they swam further away from Tete. The rhythmic sound of the waves soothed their souls, but little did they know that danger lurked beneath the surface. Tete couldn't follow them since he knew couples, especially newly married ones, always like being left alone. Unknown to them, a bull shark was alerted by their vibration, and sensing an opportunity for a potential meal, it glided stealthily toward them. Suddenly, Julia felt her countenance change. She told Philip that the water was getting colder, and that she needed to get out. Before they could react, the ocean's silent ambiance shattered, as the enormous shark emerged from the darkness below. Fear gripped Julia's heart, and she instinctively tightened her grip on Philip's hand. Her mind raced and got torn between panic and trust in her husband's capability. The shark didn't give them time to think. The predator lunged toward them with its massive jaws closing in on Philip. The shark initially targeted Julia, but Flip pushed her away and got gnashed into by the shark, sacrificing himself to protect his beloved. The shark's razor-sharp teeth tore into Philip's left leg, causing excruciating pain as he fought to stay conscious. Philip told Julia to swim ashore before soliciting any help. Thankfully, she saw the boat they came with and swam towards it. Tete, who was watching them from the boat, noticed the disturbance and quickly swam towards Philip after helping Julia on the boat. Armed with a small dagger, he knew he had to act quickly. In the chaos that followed, Tete swam towards Philip, who was still trying to pry the predator's teeth from his leg. Tete told Philip to keep distracting the shark so it wouldn't notice that he wanted to attack it. He sprang into action with all his strength and stabbed the predator's right eye. The shark got injured as it shook violently and retreated into the ocean. The shark reacted so violently that Tete couldn't remove the dagger from its eye. Julia, who sat hopefully on the boat, was heartbroken and terrified, trying to be positive about her husband's condition. Tete hurriedly reached for Philip and helped him to the water's surface after much difficulty. As they pulled Philip aboard, Julia saw the extent of his injuries. The shark severely gashed his left leg. The boat sailed back to the shore with Julia clung to Philip, whispering words of encouragement and love. Although he was in physical and emotional pain, Julia's presence gave him the strength to endure. On getting to the shore, local medical teams acted swiftly on him, tending to his injuries with utmost care before transporting him to the hospital. Amid the chaos, Julia felt overwhelming gratitude for the people doing everything they could to save her husband. As days turned to weeks, Philip underwent numerous surgeries on his leg, which was amputated due to the severe damage caused by the shark. He was placed on a prosthetic leg and had to adapt to it. The physical pain was unexplainable, but he struggled to come to terms with the trauma of the attack and the changes it brought to his life. Julia stood unwavering in her love. They spent the rest of the honeymoon in the hospital while she supported him through every recovery process. The beach was closed down for days to prevent further mishaps. After several days, the shark was found dead by a bunch of fishermen. The dagger Tete stabbed in its eye caused the death. After his recovery, the couple flew back to Poland. Philip had to adapt to reality, and with Julia's encouragement, he found strength in their love, which made him stronger for any adversity.